Okay. We are on. We are on.
I was like, why are you so obsessed with me?
Seriously. Okay. I'm just, I had to. Really curious as to, like why my abusers are so obsessed with me. Okay. So we're switching it up a bit. I have Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We're here on all the platforms. I recently got 1,000 followers on TikTok, so I go live on TikTok now. But anyways, ton of stuff I want to talk about tonight. So if you have watched my most recent videos that I've posted, I've been talking about cyber stalking. So that's what I have been dealing with. Why I played that song. Let's make sure my abusers have their popcorn ready. Seriously. So yeah. Cyber stalking is unwanted attention by your abuser, basically. And it doesn't necessarily have to be your abuser, but like for my situation it is. But it can be like really anyone. It can be strangers, but anything that's like trying to like defamate their name, and make them feel like less of a person, or harass them or threaten them, or like instill fear in them. And they almost every time become obsessed with the idea of keeping tabs on you. So that's what some of my abusers have been doing lately. And they're not trying to hide it. They're trying to come like right out and say, like, we're watching you, basically. So I had my oldest abusive sister subscribe to my YouTube channel with her full name. I've had my other abusive sister, who's closest in age to me, join my TikTok live with her full name. And then now they're making fake accounts. So I took screenshots, I sent them to my therapist, and I'll share the screenshots with you guys later. I only screenshot some of them because I reported the comments and deleted the comments and blocked the account. So I only have some of the comments, but I'll post that later for you guys to see it. They're quite comical because it literally just like proves my point that they're abusive and toxic. So yeah. What the abusers are trying to do now is they're starting to realize that they don't have power and control over me anymore. The person that they could use and abuse and step on is no longer alive. Like, that person is gone. I am a new D'Angela. Like, I have been reborn. So they don't like that, and they are doing everything to bring me back into submission, basically. They're trying to do anything. They're scrambling. Like, they're like, we gotta come up with something to hold against her, to make her compliant again. And it's so funny to watch. Like, I honestly have not stopped laughing because watching this is so funny because they don't see it. Like, they really do think that they're doing nothing wrong. Like, they really think that they have this authority over me. So it's quite comical to watch. So yeah, anyway, yesterday I get about 25 comments on my most recent post trying to come up with like every single thing that they have in their books on me. So I don't know anybody in this human world that has never made a mistake in their life. Like, I'm pretty sure we have all made mistakes in our lives, right? So when abusive and toxic people know that you've made mistakes, they try to keep that memory of you and hold it over your head for the rest of your life. Like, you could be almost 30, like me. I'm going to be 30 next month. And they will hold on to the memory of when they had the most control over you. And they'll hold whatever you did in that lifetime against you for the end of time. Like, I could be like 88 years old and my abusive family will still be like, when you were 18, you did that. When you were 14, you did that. Like, they are going to hold on to it for the rest of their lives. Hey, how's it going? So a little disclaimer, TikTok, I'm doing things a little different because on Thursday nights, I always do my survivor story. So I'm on Instagram and Facebook at the same time as TikTok right now. So I get real vulnerable and start talking about my past, things I've overcome as well. All right, so back into it. Everybody's made mistakes in their lives, right? Since sharing my story, I've been sharing my story for like 2 months now. Since sharing my story, I've been opening up pretty heavily about my past. Now, it's not like I'm proud of it, but I have no shame in anything anymore. Like, that's why it's funny because my abusers think I do, because the old me would have shame and guilt, and I don't have that anymore. Like, I don't care. Every single thing that they said and posted it on my TikTok, like, as if I was going to be like, oh no, they got me. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to share my story anymore. They're right. And I'm going to come like running back to them like, I'm so sorry. Like, that was the old me. That's not me now. So now I'm like, okay, what else? Like, okay, anything else? Like, what else do you want to say? So, all right, I'll get into the comments. So, things that they were talking about. They're like, they basically started it off with, D'Angela is the biggest abuser of them all. Like, that's how they started it. Which I've posted onto my Instagram explaining what reactive abuse is. I've been pretty open about it. I have experienced reactive abuse in my lifetime where my abuser would abuse me and then I would react with abuse. That's a pretty understandable reaction when you are being abused, okay? Nobody's going to be able to tell you how you're going to react when you're being abused, but that is a pretty common response, is you fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, okay? So if you fight, you could be using your words. You could be reacting abusively to the abuse with words. You could be reacting abusively to the abuse with physical self-defense, right? So that's happened in my lifetime in multiple occasions. It's happened against my mother. My mother would put her hands on me. I'd put my hands on my mother out of reaction. It's happened to one of my ex-boyfriends. He would abuse me, and then I would react with abuse back. And for the longest time, I thought that I was the abuser. Like, I literally thought that I was this horrible person, and my family convinced me that I was. So I just believed them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm this awful person, and how dare I treat people this way? Not even realizing that I was first treated that way, and that was my response. my family just gaslighted me to believe that I was the problem, and how dare I treat people that way. So I was not in therapy. I was not educated with what reactive abuse was or anything like that. So reactive abuse and mutual abuse are two completely separate different things. Mutual abuse is extremely rare. It's possible, but it's rare. Like especially in domestic violence, like there has to be, in order for the power and control dynamics to work, there has to be an aggressor. And so by me protecting myself against my mother or my ex-boyfriend, that does not make me a mutual abuser. That just makes me somebody who's reacting to the abuse, if that makes sense. So, all right. So anyway, whoever made this account and posted these, I'm guessing it's both of my sisters, like coming together and doing this together. But the irony of it all is the name that they decided to use was Positivity Heals, and they're doing the complete opposite. Like complete opposite. They had no followers. They had nobody following them. They weren't following anybody. It was like obviously a new account, that they clearly just wanted to use because I blocked them and they wanted to comment on my content. So they start saying, that's how they started off. I'm the abuser. I'm the biggest abuser of them all. And then they start talking about how I stole from my jobs. So let's get into that. So most of what they commented isn't completely false. There are some false things, but who cares? Anyway, so they said I stole from my jobs, right? So when I was 18, I've explained in my lives before, I was homeless. I was living I was homeless by choice, okay? I was living in a tent in the winter, in the woods, to get away from my abusive family. Like, that's how much I didn't want to be around them, and that's how much I needed help. And mentally, I definitely needed therapy, and I went undiagnosed with, I'm sure, probably PTSD, anxiety, depression, what I have now. But yeah, so I lived in a tent in the winter in the woods, like a mile away from my parents' house, and was in a very abusive relationship with my ex-boyfriend from a long time ago. I was like 18. And, oh, thank you. Yeah, I was like 18, right? So I'm homeless. I'm living in a tent in the winter in the woods. I, at like 15, got a job at the Patriots Pro Shop because my father did like a business account there. Like, he worked in security and he worked for the Patriots. So I got this job because of him at 15. So I worked there for a while. So I was like 3 years into working at this job. And meanwhile, I am working at that job still, even though I left my family and was homeless, right? So while I was homeless, I ended up living, I told this in a couple of lives ago. I ended up having an old friend come see my tent and hope that she would basically do what she did, which is offer me to live at her mom's house with her because she didn't want me to live in the woods. So that's what I did. She had me live with her for a few months. And then from there, I was not behaving. I was addicted to marijuana. I was extremely disrespectful to them. They did everything in their control to help me in any way that they possibly could. They were so nice, and I just didn't get it. I was being abused. Like, I needed mental health help. And I was addicted to marijuana. And at the time, my abusive boyfriend was even using Vicodin, and he was like, yeah, like crush up Vicodin and put it on top of the marijuana. Like, he was like saying that that's something that you should do. And, I didn't want to do marijuana in the first place, but he told me he would break up with me, whatever. So I'm obviously this like very troubled individual at 18 years old. Meanwhile, I was in college. Going to college homeless, living in a tent, and then living with my friend. And I mean, I was a hot mess. Anyways, I was still working at the Patriots Pro Shop, and now I got kicked out of my friend's house for being disrespectful and ended up needing to go find somewhere else to live because I didn't want to go back into the tent and live in the tent. By this time it was like March and it was still like snowy and cold, and like I didn't want to live there anymore. So, or go back to live there. But I was planning on it. Anyways, I needed money to get into an apartment. I needed like help with first class security and I had like no money. So I'm working at the Patriots Pro Shop, and I had rights because I worked there for a while to like return things. And so I went to go return an authentic Patriots jersey and pretend that like it was returned, but it really wasn't. And so I took the cash out of the register thinking that like I wouldn't get caught, even though there were cameras everywhere, and literally took the money. And then when the managers went to go cash out the drawer and everything, they realized, oh my goodness, like oh yeah, hey, how's it going? Thank you for coming. Yeah, they realized that, you know, the money was not the way it was because you put a certain amount of money in the register, and like, you know, that was not accurate anymore. So the investigation was on. I mean, I was guilty. Like, I was so guilty, but I didn't know what to do. Like, I was thinking, I don't want to be homeless again. Like, that's what my brain was thinking. Meanwhile, I'm undiagnosed with mental health issues, addicted to marijuana, like, and so yeah, they end up catching me because I was extremely guilty, and they were really nice about it. They had me sign a sheet of paper saying like I voluntarily quit because they didn't want me to get like unemployment or anything like that. And they agreed to like not get police involved because they also knew my father. But again, I left my family. So, they ended up telling my family eventually that like I was caught stealing. And I mean, I was already not okay for like a solid month or two while working at that job. I was lying and saying that like, cause I went to Bridgewater State at the time, I was lying and saying that I made the cheerleading team and I was on the cheerleading team. And there was another girl who worked at the Patriots Pro Shop who went to Bridgewater State, and she was on the cheerleading team, and she's like, D'Angela is not on the cheerleading team. And, you know, I was like, yes, I am. And, you know, but I would do it to go hang out with my abusive boyfriend. There was also a time where I lied and said that somebody in the family, which I think I said it was like an uncle, but it very well could have been my grandfather, who I said passed, who really didn't pass. But I said I needed the whole weekend off because I worked at the Patriots Pro Shop. Like, if there was a Patriots game, I had to work. If there was a Revolution game, I had to work. Like, if there was like a concert, I had to work. And I was like obsessed with my abusive boyfriend, so I was like, how do I get out of this? So I said somebody in my family died. Like, I wasn't thinking. Like, I was young, and like I said before in the beginning of this live, like, young, even if you're not young, it has nothing to do with age. Like, people make mistakes, okay? And I was like heavily not okay for so long, and nobody in my family cared. Nobody wanted to ask, like, nobody wanted to say, hey, she needs to be in therapy. Nobody wanted to figure out, hey, why is D'Angela lying? Or like, hey, why is D'Angela getting in abusive relationships? Or like, hey, why is D'Angela looking for this attention? Like, nobody cared in my family. They just were like, she's got issues. And it's like, obviously I have issues. I'm stealing from my job. I'm lying about family dying so I can go be with abusive boyfriends. I'm living in a tent in the winter time, okay, a mile away from my parents' house. Like, nobody in my family cared enough to even like say she needs help, you know? Instead, they just want to judge me and like hold it against me for years. Still to this day, like making accounts, and even like yesterday, even claiming that they're holding it against me. Like, D'Angela is the last person who should be giving advice. If people take advice from her, then they're really going to go downhill like she is. Like, she's $35,000 behind in mortgage payments. That's not even talking about what she's behind in student loans. And then they talked about, again, these are definitely my sisters. But again, the name is Positivity Heals, guys. Okay, so Positivity Heals, right? Because they're totally spreading positivity when they're not at all. They're just like scrambling to find out all of the bad things I've ever done in my life to hold it against me, to submit me back to them. That's exactly what they're doing. And it's not going to work. So it's like, here I am. What else do you guys want to know about me? Because I'll tell you everything. Like, they're not going to have anything else to use against me because I'm admitting to everything. And they even wrote in the comments, like, D'Angela even admits to prostituting herself for marijuana. And I'm like, I was heavily addicted to marijuana. Like, I put myself in situations where I got myself sexually assaulted for marijuana. Like, I was so not okay and so addicted to marijuana that I would rather get raped by somebody for marijuana than go be with my abusive family. Like, just think about that for a second. Like, and nobody in my family wanted to even wonder. Nobody ever asked if I was okay. Like, they weren't like, D'Angela, are you all right? Like, that was not a question my family asked. They just were like, she's nuts. And like deemed me crazy and never wanted to think about therapy, never wanted to, try to figure out like maybe she has some trauma, like maybe. And then I remember the friend that I was living with when she offered to have me live at her mom's house because I was living in a tent. She has, I tried to explain to her like why I left my family. I was trying to explain to her, and the look on her face was like, what's the problem? Like, I don't get what the problem is because abuse is so normalized. So my friend's looking at me like I have 8 heads because she's like, okay, like that happens to me too. And I was explaining like, my dad coming into the bathroom when I was in the shower and he would open the shower curtain, and she's like, okay. And I would explain like, but they're yelling at me all the time. Like, they hit me with belts, but they like throw chairs at me, and they fight in front of me, and I'm saying all the things that they've done, and my friend's kind of like, all right. So in order to get my friend to like listen to me, I told her I have a scar on my hand because a cat, my old cat when I was like a kid, I picked the cat up upside down and the cat scratched me. And so I have a scar on my hand. And so I was like thinking in my head, okay, she's not going to believe me for anything that I've already told her about what my family's done. So I decided to tell her, okay, well, I got this because my dad stabbed me. And she was like, oh, like now she cares. Like, now she's, and I'm not blaming the friend because unfortunately abuse is just so normalized that it wasn't out of the ordinary for her to hear the things that I was telling her. So I almost had to like make it more believable so that she would listen to me. Yeah. And so I said that. And so that whole family who let me live with them was like, wow, like I didn't realize like her family was that abusive. And it's like, it shouldn't be that abusive. It should be they're abusive. Like, there's so many comments happening in here and I can't really keep track of them, guys. It's not until it's physical that people care. Yeah. Like, you said it exactly. And that's the problem. Because it's like I was being abused since I was in my mother's stomach. Like, and that's very real. When I was pregnant with my youngest, he was being abused. I was being kicked in the stomach. I was being suffocated. I was being strangled. And my son was in my stomach the whole time. Can you imagine what that actually did to my son in my stomach? Like, they talk about when women get pregnant, you need to stay away from stress. So imagine like being physically abused, emotionally abused, financially abused, fear, like so many different types, sexually abused, everything. And I'm pregnant. So imagine what my baby had to go through. And he wasn't even born yet. Okay. They didn't even think he was going to make it. Because when my children's father was arrested, I was 10 weeks pregnant. So imagine, I know what my youngest went through. I know what all three of my kids went through when they were pregnant, when I was pregnant with them. Imagine what, I was the youngest of 4. Okay. The things my father would do to my mother when I was born, imagine what was done when I wasn't born. So it's like, I was literally born into domestic violence. Like, this was my normal. Like, so anyway, my family is going to use everything they possibly can against me to bring me back into submission, to literally bring me back to them and make me say, I'm so sorry. Because when I lived in the tent, I stayed with my abusive boyfriend, I was away from them for like almost 3 years. And I had no idea my oldest sister was engaged. I had no idea she had a baby. And they were stalking me the whole time. They were tracking down. I should have figured it out then, but I didn't. I felt guilty, especially because I was being abused by my boyfriend as well. So it was almost like I was picking between abuse. And then I was like, well, I finally broke up with that abusive boyfriend. I don't have anybody, so I might as well just go back to my abusive family, you know, and say sorry. And it's like my family's holding it over my head because they're like, you know what? Dad forgave you when you said he stabbed you. And, you know, the things, and even my dad will hold that against me. Like, you know, I could bring up all the things you said, but I'm not going to. It's like, okay, but you just did. Like, held it against me even till yesterday. And it's so funny because they don't get it. Like, they literally don't get it. The other things they brought up was like, you know, don't listen to D'Angela if she opens up a business. Like, she can't have clients or something like that. If she's going to help other people, like, I really feel bad for those people. Your life is going to go downhill just like hers. She's in debt, blah, blah, blah. All this hate. It's not until, yeah, even in situations of sexual assault or rape, intergenerational trauma. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I can't keep track of the, the comments on TikTok, guys. But yeah, I'm going to go a little over. I usually keep it 30 minutes on Instagram and Facebook, but I'm going to go a little bit more because I just like want to keep going. I'm going to calm myself down a little bit with the music to make myself laugh again.
And I was like, why are you so obsessed with me?
Because this is my family. They're obsessed. Like, they're probably watching right now. They probably have their popcorn. I was talking to my therapist, like, they probably have watch parties, like, together. My therapist was also saying they probably take notes and keep tabs on me and, like, know that Thursday at 9:30 is, like, the time because they, in the comments that they left, were even saying, like, what did they say? Oh, her stories, you know, she even admits on her lives that she prostituted herself for marijuana. And it's like, I had mental health issues. Like, I was choosing between which abuse I'd rather deal with to not deal with the other abuse. And nobody in the family wanted to even, like, wonder if I was okay. They just wanted to, like, deem me crazy and nuts and I have problems. Like, so even though I was, like, prostituting myself for marijuana, I didn't even want to do that. Like, I was a child. Like, I was not, when I started involving myself in like sexually onto people, I was a teenager. I had already been sexually assaulted. My first time ever, I was sexually assaulted. So a trauma response for me was, I know people will pay attention to me sexually, so I might as well just whatever. But mentally, I was tapped out. Like, I was not a willing participant, like, mentally. Even though my, like, physical body and, like, I was appeasing everybody around me. I was, like, fawning to every single person because I needed attention. I needed love. I needed affection. Like, and I wasn't getting it from home. So I knew my physical appearance could get me attention, but never did I really want a sexual interaction with anybody. Like, this was like at a different, I mean, I guess it's the same time now, but my generation was the very beginning stages of like camera phones. So if I needed someone to like talk to, I would like send pictures of my body. And I would do it to like my brother's friends, my sister's friends. And instead of my siblings asking me if I was okay, they're just like, she's nuts. And I think I always wanted to get found out because I kept a diary and I wrote everybody's first and last name of any type of physical sexual interaction I had with them, and wrote down their first and last name and wrote down the bases and then left it out for my family to find. It was like a cry for help, like, help me, like, somebody help me. I'm so grateful you're on here, Chris, blocking people. Good for you. But yeah, I was literally like, I needed help and nobody wanted to help me. Like, nobody wanted to help me. And now that I'm getting the help that I have always deserved, I'm finally understanding that I have never had one healthy sexual interaction in my entire life. My first experience, I was sexually assaulted. He was 17, I was 15. Like, I did not know what I was doing. I was in so much pain. I did not even understand emotionally what was happening to me. Like, it was just something that my boyfriend said we should do. And then I'm like, I don't want to do this. And he's like, well, it's going to be fine. And I'm like, well, it's going to hurt. And he's like, it's going to be fine. Like, he just was like, and what's interesting is he tries to like message me sometimes on Instagram. And at one point he was like, I don't think you're making any of this up. He was like, I should have treated you better. And it's like, I don't know if that's his way of like taking responsibility for how he treated me. And I don't even know if he knows what he's taking responsibility for. But I was sexually assaulted. Like, I remember specifically being like, I don't want to do this. Like, ow, ow, ow. I don't like this. And him just like continuing, because it wasn't his first time. And there was literally just like blood all over the bed. All over the bed. And he was like, yeah, I did that. Like, he was like proud that happened. Or at least that's how it seemed. And he just picked up all the sheets, and his cousin was downstairs with his girlfriend. And he just like, yeah, I popped her cherry. So yeah, I got to clean this up before my mom gets home. And I was just like, what just happened? Like, what just happened? Like, I don't even know what just happened. But mentally, I was not okay because I'm like, well, I guess this is who I am now. Like, I guess this is what I do. I had just turned 15. Like, I literally just turned 15. And that was my first, like, actual, like, intercourse situation, but like even before that, I was being like harassed sexually. Like I was being like harassed, like sexually. Like I was 13 and kids in junior high were like, flash me. And I'm like, I guess, okay. But like, I didn't know what I was doing. Like I had no idea what I was doing. So it's so important for people to talk about this stuff, because half the time people think that they were like willing participants in these things. And it's like, no, especially when you're a child. Like I was 13 years old and these kids, there were also kids, but it doesn't make it any better, like telling me to just like flash them. And then I remember them like rating me. Like like them being like, oh, well, like you're really flat. Like I didn't want to see that. I'm like, okay, but you just told me to do it. Like, and because I wasn't getting the attention that I needed at home, I was like doing this because I'm like, well, at least they're talking to me. Like at least they, like I like felt loved, even though I was obviously like being made fun of and I was, you know, like an easy target. I was just always an easy target. And anyways, more of things that my sisters said had to do with like, don't trust her. She doesn't tell the truth about anything. She's a compulsive liar. She takes money from people. They brought up a situation at, I went to a church that my sister invited me to go to once my children's father got arrested. And meanwhile, didn't even want to go to that church. For years, she was spiritually abusing me, making fun of the fact that I was Catholic and I got my son baptized because she was a Christian Scientist and she didn't believe in that. So she would make fun of me for wanting to baptize my son, and she made her and her husband just like made fun throughout the entire baptism. But anyways, I was in such a vulnerable place that once my children's father got arrested, I was like, okay, like there's community there, like I guess I'll go there. And so I went there, and then I really started going there because I love God. So I was like, here's a community, like I'll go to this church. And went to the church. I was obviously pregnant with my youngest, and I did not force the church, but when I had my youngest, the church decided to bring like the weekly donation money to, instead of having it go to the church, they decided to gift it to me. And I said, thank you so much. Like, you know, I got it in the mail and everyone had signed the card. And it's like, but the way my sisters made it sound like on TikTok was like, I forced the church to pay me money and I took it and all I do is take. And it's like, it's so funny because when you read their messages, it's like, they're like, okay, and what else did she do? And like, what else did she do? And like, what else did she do? And, but with like no context, like no explanation as to how these things were being done. So my sisters also wanted to say that I like hit on their boyfriends and hit on their husbands to prostitute myself for weed. I do not believe that happened. I have such suppressed memory though, that like I've suppressed so many memories and trauma that like, I don't even care. Maybe it did happen. Like, I don't even know at this point. I lied so much that it was like, I would believe things that, like I'm in EMDR, so I'm like still trying to like uncover things. But what's funny is my sisters think that they're like gonna get me to, like they're winning or something. Like they're like, let's mess with her and tell on her. Like what were they even they had such hate, like such venom coming out of them as they're typing this. And it's like, I don't care. This has nothing to do with them. This has nothing to do with anybody. This has everything to do with me. This is my story. This is my truth. This is my life. And I'm going to talk about it. Like, this is my life. Like, I'm not trying to prove anything to anybody. I am doing this for me. There was a beautiful young woman who made a TikTok earlier who was saying how therapeutic it is for her to speak and hold the phone and record and just hear the words coming out of her mouth and then post it online and have others, even with haters, like that's going to happen, but have others give positive feedback to her. I'm like, wow, thank you for saying that, because that's exactly how I feel. Meanwhile, my sisters are like, she just moves from addiction to addiction, from one addiction to another. Like, she's addicted to social media. And it's like, maybe I am. But you know what? It's therapeutic for me. Like, this, like, is helping me. And it's helping other people too. So I could care less what my abusers have to say. It doesn't mean anything. So the more I keep telling you guys my story, the more they're going to be like, what else do we have on her? I don't know. She already talked about that. What else can we say? It's like, I don't know. Say whatever you want, because it doesn't matter. I can't really see all the comments, guys, but I appreciate the support, and I could literally talk all day. I could just keep going. But yeah, I'm going to post the screenshots of what my sisters wrote. And again, it just proves how abusive and toxic they are, because no positivity heals, like no, like that is not positivity. That's not spreading positivity. That is honing in on somebody to target them and show them hate and knock them down. And if anything, it was confirmation that, like, I will never have them in my life ever again. Like, it shows who they are as people. And it proves to me that they don't ever deserve who D'Angela is now. So it's a beautiful thing what they did, because it's like, I don't care. There used to be a D'Angela that cared about that, and then I would go into submission and do everything they said and be like, you're right, and I'm not smart, and yeah, that's not me. Like, I love myself too much. I love myself. I accept myself. I forgive myself. Everything that I once did, that's not me anymore. That was a very I'm still troubled. But that was a very troubled D'Angela who stole and lied and harmed people at times. Like the family who, they are not my friends anymore, and I don't discredit that. They deserve to not want to be my friends after what I did. They offered their home to me. I lied to them. I abused the privilege of living at their house. Like, I did not treat them with respect. Meanwhile, the mother had cancer at the time, and I was just like coming in and out of their house. I'm honestly proud of that mother, because she ended up like not letting me come back one day. And then I was like, what do I do? But it was like, that was her boundary, and I wasn't listening. Like, that taught me, you know, and I forgive myself for what I put them through. They were just trying to help me. Like, I involved her on my own by letting her see my tent that I was living in. And like, I've made mistakes in my life. I've been in so many car accidents, I can't even begin to count the amount. I've committed crimes. I've done hit and runs, you know, and I've been caught for every single one of them. But that's not who I am today. Like, I have been sober for 6 years. It's funny that my sisters will be like, she was addicted to weed. It's like, yes, I was. I'm not anymore. I'm not anymore. Like, I was even made fun of because of my weight. Like, my oldest sister didn't want me taking pictures of newborn photos of me and my daughter because she was like, you're not going to be that big your whole life. You're not going to want to look back on those pictures and see how big you were. And I'm like, what are you talking about? So just because I'm big, I shouldn't get newborn photos of me and my daughter? Like, what are you talking about? And I'm grateful I got those photos. Those photos are amazing. And no, I'm not big anymore, but who cares? I shouldn't get pictures of me and my newborn? Like, yeah. So it's like very interesting. And what's funny is I do these. So yeah, I have my Instagram. Now I'm on TikTok Live. I have my Facebook. I upload everything onto YouTube. I have a podcast. I do this freely. I don't edit. And so some of the things my sisters were saying were like, she's so contradictory. I'm like, maybe I do contradict myself in words, but I'm a human and I speak. I speak my thoughts, my mind, and I let the words come out. I'm not perfect. Like, there's going to be times when I am a human and I'm going to feel sad. Like, I've explained this before, where I'm a survivor. I have survived not only my family, but my children's father and other abusers in my lifetime. I'm a survivor, okay? They were like, she thrives off of being a victim. And it's like, I've been a victim. And maybe at times I might even be a victim even in today's world. Like with that business owner, I was a victim again. And I was upset with myself. Like, how did I let myself be a victim again? But I don't live in victim world. I'm a survivor. And I am a survivor who is thriving. So that's why I say I'm a thriver. But even though I'm a thriver, there might be days where I'm just surviving. And I'm a survivor. Like, healing is not this like, I was not okay and now I'm okay and I'm okay for the rest of my life. Like, that's not how healing works. Like, I am going to be healing for the rest of my life. There's going to be days where I'm on top of the world. Like, I feel awesome. I get it. There's going to be days where I feel that way. And then there's going to be days where I'm like, I could have done so much better as a mom. Like, I wish I hugged my son more today. I wish I could have been a little bit more patient with my son today. Does that make me a bad mom? Does that make me a bad person? No. I am a mother who is healing my trauma, and I have severe mental health. The other things my sisters were saying is like, she's going to use from the state. Like, they used to always say, like, you're going to be on welfare. Even my children's father's family would say that, like, your children are going to be welfare children. And I'm like, you know what? I am on food stamps. I get cash assistance. I'm looking into getting disability because of my mental health. Does that make me wrong? No. Am I going to be on it for the rest of my life? No. Do I need help? Yes. Is there help out there for people like me? Yes. Should I take it? Yes. Am I on fuel assistance? Yes. Am I in debt because I can't pay my mortgage? Yes. Am I in debt because of the whole situation with my mother and student loans? Yes. That's another thing my sisters were bringing up. How that didn't happen. And she just assumed that all of the 4 kids, the parents were going to pay for the college. And it's like, I remember what happened. And it wasn't just me that happened to in our family. So, but it doesn't matter because I know what happened. Even when they want to try to get in my head and tell me that didn't happen, I know what happened. So, yeah. I'm going to keep talking, so. I can't read all of the comments. But yeah, I've been on here for so long. I'll stay on TikTok, but I'm gonna get off of Instagram and Facebook because I upload this to my YouTube channel and everything. So I want to keep it an appropriate time for people to listen to. But yeah, I'll post those stuff. I'll post those screenshots of what my sisters did a little later. All right, thanks for listening. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Bye.